September 11th, 2024 meeting of the North Bennington Graded School District Prudential Committee. And we're on Zoom and live at Central Office. And first thing is to look for public comments. I don't see anybody online for that.
Oh, there isn't. Yep. No, there isn't anybody.
All right. So then we'll jump right into finance. So, Doug?
Okay, yep. So my report is out there. Like I replied to Ray's email, the only slight change to the report is the building fund that had been carrying forward was used in full July/August, those bills and all approved. So I was just waiting for Alice to confirm from SVSU that we went to a complete zero balance and we didn't leave, 1,000 or something like that. So late Monday, she did confirm that. So I do have a revised, but I don't think I got it out to everybody, but that was the only change on it. The cash balance portion was the same. That had me a little nervous because we were going to have to go into the line of credit for this month's warrant. However, the state, unlike the last couple of years, got the education funding out on time. So we have actually already received our deposit for September, which is a little over 600,000. So we are in great shape right now.
But that doesn't show in this August report, of course.
Correct, because the deposit is in September. Right. So that report is as of 8/31. Because we're always waiting for the bank statement. So the report is always from the month end prior to. So I'm just kind of giving you a literal minute-to-minute update of where we're at.
So this operating cash balance on this August 31st treasurer's report, that needs to be adjusted or no?
Nope. So the report itself, the top portion that has all the cash balances is all correct. I'm just pulling my copy up right now to tell you which line changed. There's only one change. So if you look at the treasurer's report and you go to the line that says sinking fund building maintenance, which is towards the bottom.
That's zeroed out.
Correct. That will be a zero.
But the ending account balance is 161.
Correct. As of August 31st, we had little over 161,000 available in cash. We did still have some money available on the line of credit. So depending on when this deposit, if it was going to be late again this year, I was going to have to use some more funds from the line of credit to cover the warrant. But like I said, as of the 10th, the direct deposit hit the account for our first of two fundings for the year from the state. So we will not have to use the line of credit right now. So that usually will carry for 2 to 3 months. Taxes, that'll be the next discussion that I have here in a minute. But so there's that little gray area towards the end of November that we may need to use a line of credit again. We may not, but for right now, we're in good shape for our warrants.
Right. And just to rehash on the sinking fund, we had some building expenses from last year that we reimbursed the village school for. They handled the expenses, and we dealt with that in August. We reviewed. Was it August that we reviewed that? Yes, I guess so.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And like I said, I was just waiting for confirmation that we completely zeroed it. And we did. We used Alice had transferred, the paper transfer from the fund balance to the operating to cover. So, yep.
And the reason we did that was that we had, starting with this new fiscal year, we had access to $200,000 there. So, yeah.
Right, because the last couple of years we've basically just put the $1,000 placeholder in the budget.
Yes.
So there was no significant budget for that. And now going forward, at least for this year, we do have. So building maintenance that comes in would be paid just like anything else.
And we paid, so we paid the 49,000 and change of expenses in FY 24. And then we
Yes.
also paid 17 or so out of the reserve fund that we established in the FY 25 budget. So we've spent 17,000 of that, what we have put into the budget.
Correct.
In March. But the rest of it, there's $185,000 still there.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we are here in tax time. Tax bills for the North Bennington Graded School District, which includes the Shaftesbury 1 or the Shaftesbury ID, however you want to call it, have all been mailed out as of Monday. I know a few folks have said they've already received theirs, so I would say if you're local mailing address, you should have it by the end of the week. If they're going out of town, if you're using other addresses, those will probably be first part of next week. I'll give the same little spiel that I gave last night at the village meeting. The two most common questions are homestead versus non-homestead and state credit 1 year and not the other year. Both of those items are handled through the state of Vermont. On the back of the tax bill, there's a little bit of information about that. I am also going to put something on the village northbennington.org website. That'll have a little brief explanation and a phone number and a click here link, because there's nothing that I can do as treasurer for your homestead filing and to figure out why you may or may not have gotten a state credit or why it may have changed. The state credit is income based, and there's certain criteria. So that is subject to change year to year. And the homestead versus the non-homestead, 90% of the time, it's folks forget to check the box when they file their tax returns that this is their homestead. So right now we're in what's called the late period. So there is a penalty, but you still are able to get the homestead rate if that's what you are supposed to get. So even with the penalty, there is still a savings. And I believe the cutoff is October 15th. So after October 15th, if you misfiled or didn't file, it is what it is. There's nothing that can be changed at that point. Tax bills are due for all entities, Bennington, North Bennington, Shaftesbury, on November the 12th, which is a Tuesday. Typically, it's the 10th. That's a weekend. Monday, the 11th, is Veterans Day. So all entities, we have moved our due date to the next business day, which is Tuesday the 12th. Within the next week or two, I'll put my hour schedule for in-person payment, which will start around the beginning of October at the depot. But folks can email or call. Then both of those are on the tax bills if they need to make arrangements or have questions. Email is typically the best because I check that more frequently than the voicemail. But during this time of year, I try to check both of them, if not daily, at least every other day or so. I think that's all I got, unless anybody else has any questions.
Seeing none, we thank you for your report.
Absolutely.
Budget status is included in the packet if you want to review it. I am doing a brief review of it later on because I'm talking about enrollments and that impinges on it. The consent agenda is in the packet, and that includes the warrant and the minutes from August. Okay, so the warrant, there's a payroll warrant for one thing. And that's for paying Doug for his quarterly payment on treasurer's payment. And deducting 941 taxes, withholding and Social Security taxes, and sending them to the Vermont Department of Taxes. There is also a additional tax this year. Do you want to describe that? It's the child care tax, right?
I don't have anything on it tonight,
Okay.
but I can make a note. You'd like to know more about that.
Ray, I can briefly explain it because we went through it with the village if you want.
Right. Do it.
Yep. So I will get
the trouble.
I will get the percentages wrong because I don't have it right in front of me, but I can briefly explain what it is. The state of Vermont issued a new tax that all employers are required to pay. It is a very, very small percentage. It's less than 10%. So it's less than, 0.10. So the employer has the option of passing 25% of that tax on to the employee, basically to share the cost. I don't know of any employer that I have seen, heard, or spoke to through my time, going through this both on my banking side and on the village side that hasn't passed that small percentage on to their employees. I know there probably are a few out there, but the vast majority of employers are passing that small portion on to the employees. So that's what it is. It's a state of Vermont mandate tax. It is what it is. So it's going to fund new initiatives within the child care realm. Exactly what it's funding, you'd have to go through the bill and the legislation to see exactly what it is. But in a nutshell, that's what it is and how it is.
So I can tell you a little bit more if you're interested, but it's Act 70. It's Act 76, and it is funding early education. It's helping families afford preschool and pre-K. And it's done a lot of good so far for many, many facilities. I think it was the right thing to do. Childcare and preschool and pre-K is incredibly expensive. Families have to work, and this is really minimal to the taxpayer, individual taxpayer. Let's Grow Kids is a big foundation that initiated this and that most of us worked with. I was on the board with the many pre-K directors and helped put together what should be included in the bill.
Yep.
And hopefully that makes it a little more clear.
But it's funding pre-K education, and in part funding the subsidies for children or pre-K education, as well as other services that are in that act. Correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Lori, and Doug for your explanations of the tax and the uses of it. Appreciate that. So there's the warrant for Doug's payroll for his services as our treasurer, and then the major warrant is for paying the other bills. So we paid Lori for meeting minutes for that would be for August of 2024. And then we have some assessments to the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union for administrative services. That's $855 roughly. Audit, $761. Early education, 17,100. Financial services, 3,100 HR administration. Is that 400? 441, 442. Special education administration, 1,084. And early education, is that SPED, early education Prague? P-R-O-G, do you know what that means? P-R-O-G?
Just see it right. Sure. It could be PR, it could be programming.
Programming?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. 4,300 basically. Tech administration, 3,300. And then the rest is tuitions. So tuition for 2 students at Grace Christian, 4675. Tuition for Highland Hall School for 3 students, 7705. These are, and I'll mention this in a minute to finish what I was doing instead of interrupting. Tuition to Southshire, 82,557. And the village school, 154,182. The tuition for Grace, Highland Hall, Southshire is 1/4 of the annual tuition. We pay it at 4 different points in the year which is according to our policy. The village school, we pay 11 payments during the year because it's a larger sum, and there are more students involved. Then the last 2 items are financial items. One is an interest payment to the U.S. Bank for $1,100, and the other 2 payments are to the village of North Bennington. And I think we will ask, is Doug gone? He's gone.
No, I'm here, right?
So, yeah, would you like to speak to the interest payment and the 2 payments to the village of North Bennington?
Yep. So the 1,100, that's not interest, that's the annual fee.
Annual fee for the bank to process.
For all the stuff that goes into the bond preparation and handling and all that. The payments to the village of North Bennington are the prebates from the state. So folks that have the prebates on their property taxes through the school district, it's a weird scenario how the state does it. The funds go to the school district, but the school district has to pay it to the municipality. Then the municipality goes and pays everything at the end of the day that's due. Why? I'm sure that there's an explanation out there as to exactly why the state does it that way, but that's how it goes.
That's a lot of hands.
Yes.
Okay. That actually,
so there'll probably be a couple more of those over the next month or so.
Okay.
That'll have that for the prebate amounts. The state starts releasing those. Typically it's late July. So as the school kind of collects them as the direct deposits, then it goes on the next warrant. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that all totals $346,267.20. And hopefully we've given some insight into what's being paid for. So the deal is it's consent agenda. So let's see if we can pass this right now.
So moved.
I'll second.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, okay, thanks, Kieran. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, then call the question. All in favor of passing the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Matthew is giving me a thumb. And Lanny is too. Okay. So through the consent agenda, there's no policies.
Could I ask something about the policies? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
The policy committee met on, had their first meeting of the year on Monday, and I wondered who the rep was from this board, just to make sure they're getting the emails.
Well, the last I knew, it was Tim Kane.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll just make sure he's on the email feed.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And do you have a superintendent's report, or you don't have to? That's fine.
I think it's nice to see you all at the start of the school year. And I was just gonna give you two little big picture snippets of information. This past summer, we had 107 recovery staff that worked and supported the children of the entire district for different summer programming that was primarily funded through ESSER. And we also had 89 SVSU staff that worked this summer to prepare programming for the start of the year. And the district's focus this year is we spent a whole year as a requirement from the Agency of Education updating our district goals. And so we're updating our goals. And so this year the focus is on collecting data to show that things are working. And then finally, I would share that my other role, in addition to being the assistant superintendent, is that I'm also the SVSU homeless liaison. And this is the time of year when I like to tell everybody that is my role. And there are posters around town with my name and my phone number on it, because if you know of anybody that lives in our district that might be experiencing housing or homeless issues, please direct them to me. The phone number at central office is 802-447-7501. And we also have a link on our website under About Us that describes what I can do to help support.
Okay, so Laura is the homeless coalition.
I'm the homeless liaison for the Southwest Vermont Supervisors Union. Yes.
Can we get a link to that information that you were letting us know about via email for the board?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. All right. So I sent an email to everybody this morning that had just some comments, which was in effect my chair's report. And if I can find my email again, I've lost it again.
Ray, well,
Yeah.
while you're looking for that, I had a question for Laura or the SVSU in general. I'm curious about what is the current policy at the various schools regarding COVID?
So that's a great question. So the SVSU, there isn't a direct policy linked to COVID anymore. That went away. And when we did have language linked to our response, it was found in the SVSU attendance policy. And so our SVSU nurses are connected to the Department of Health. And so there was a gradual removal of language. So where you find information now, and I want to give you the right, give me just a quick moment. So under policies on the SVSU website, every year the nurses update the policies related to health. And so our response when there is a health concern is outlined in that policy. So 5140 is communicable diseases. So that is a policy I would monitor, and that's around recognizing the transmission of communicable diseases. And lists in there have our response. So we're super lucky to have the SVSU nurses monitoring this for us. Does that help, Matt?
Well, so what I've heard from a couple of different educators in the system is that the policy was that a student who tests positive can come back 24 hours later.
So there isn't specific, like there again, as so they respond to language that's provided from the Department of Health. So right now there isn't specific language that's specific to COVID. That was removed from the attendance policy. So now there's general language in the communicable diseases policy. So for example, Matt, there's in the administrative regulations, there's a bullet called fever, and it says, you know, it talks about when a child has a fever over 100 degrees, they must be fever free for 24 hours. So there's specific guidance in that particular policy, and that's what's currently being used.
Okay, so I'm curious, what's the current situation with COVID in the system?
I will write down your question, but I don't have a response. I'm not aware.
Matt, I can tell you that at my school, same thing. There's currently not a COVID-19 policy, but our nurse and head of school are following the advice from the Vermont Department of Health, and it is exactly what you said. You have to be fever-free for 24 hours, and then you can come right back. And you can mask or not mask, and you know, it's pretty open.
Well, having been a victim recently for the first time and seeing it rampant again, maybe not severe, but rampant in the community I work in.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a little liberal of a policy, but you'll all find out, I guess.
Thanks for your question, Matt. Thanks for your question.
Okay. All right, so I detailed enrollment as far as I know it at the moment in my email, which all of you should have received. And so, as I said, there are, well, should I read these numbers out? You know, I don't know. There's 24 students attending public schools, mostly Shasberry, one in Arlington and several in Holly Stark and Pelham, sorry, not Pelham. And there are 34 in independent schools other than the village school. So that's 59 in institutions other than the village school. And we have a tuition agreement with the village school that's for 85 students. And we'll know later, early in October, or by mid-October, what the number is that we're actually working with at the village school. And so that totals up to 144 students if we do indeed have all those students at the village school that are in the tuition agreement. And I posted the costs on the alongside these numbers, and then I compared that to the actual budget for tuitions for K-6 students, showing that we have it appears we would have a surplus, a substantial surplus if those numbers hold the way they are at the end of the year, which would carry over to not FY26, but to FY27 as a local revenue to reduce the taxpayers for that year. And I would like to detail those numbers out by schools, grade levels, so forth. But I'm going to wait till things are finally settled before I do that. And we have a census from the village school. Facility budget.
Ray.
Yes.
I just had a couple quick questions about the enrollment. Did you say it was 59 students that are in district that tuition out?
That tuition out to an institution other than the village, yes.
Correct.
And the reason I would not be totally firm about this is because I think there are 4 children whose families have not recertified their location.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of waiting.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So my question, I guess, would then be is once we have the final numbers, can we get like maybe a 3-year comparison of total?
We have actually, Lori asked the supervisory union to provide us the last 3 years, was it 4 years, Lori?
Yeah, I have all of that, Doug.
Yeah.
I can forward that to you.
Well,
Great.
I have it. I thought I had forwarded that spreadsheet, but
Maybe I do have it and I just didn't realize it.
well, no, I'll make certain it goes out again, so everybody.
Okay. Yeah, and then I'll take a
Okay.
look at that with this year's.
Yeah.
And then so maybe I'll hold my other couple of questions until next month when we have the actual numbers.
Previous numbers. You want a graph?
No. Because you said there's still a few in flux for this year. So
yeah,
if we,
I think that I would say I think the 59 is probably pretty accurate, but it could drop by 1 or 2 if
okay. Yeah.
Those families are actually not still resident in our district.
Okay. I'm fine waiting, to look at the spreadsheet that's currently there with the numbers for this year, and then that may answer my questions already. And then if not, I'll ask them next month. That's fine.
Great.
Thanks, Ray.
So, yeah. So at any rate, that's a rough idea of what our costs are going to be this year at K6. And that there actually is a surplus in that budget as we set it up. Which will help us out, as I said, in 2 years. This is useful to know because the way this, the way the legislature has designed the program last year, we're going to see, we currently have a discount on our tax rate of 17 cents, and it's going to decline to nothing over 5 years. So part of what I'm hopeful we will be able to do this year is to carry over some surpluses to help us with the changes in those rates over time. And that's why I did this little study, because it shows that there's surplus there that could fund a fund balance that will help reduce the actual cost for property taxpayers. Make sense? The facility budget. I included the building reserve because it was still sitting in the treasurer's report, but that's not there. However, we do have a budget line item for building expenses that has at the moment $186,000 in it, roughly, or a little bit less. We put that in there to help with the ventilation project, if it, is, we get contractors, and if it needs a little more money, that's what we have there to supply for extra money. And I was asked this question by Tim, so Tim's here, and that's his answer at the moment. We had budgeted other surpluses, $50,000 for unforeseen SPED expenses, special education expenses. We'll see how that works out, whether we need it or not. And theoretically, if we don't use it, it would roll over into a SPED fund for our contingencies of subsequent years. And then there's the board. The board has a contingency fund in it. The board of directors line items have a contingency fund for unforeseen tuition expenses. And that's pretty much for educational expenses, but if there's no demand on it, probably, and we need it, we could, to get this project finished, we could probably throw some of that way too. And that's pretty much my report.
Ray, if I may,
Yes.
just chime in on that. Wonderfully, we actually had 4 contractors come for the walkthrough.
Yeah.
So much more interest than we did last time around. So Centerline Architecture has taken over where Derek had left off, and they were able to get some folks here through the walkthrough. So we'll know in the next couple of weeks their bids. If we want this project to go through, their bids have to be due before the end of the month. So we'll know very quickly. And so that's why I needed to understand, because my suspicion is, $750,000 sounds like a lot when we were first looking at this, but it's now a couple of years out.
Yep.
Through this process, and costs have gone up, and so what the overall cost will be. So that's where I wanted to understand what the district might be able to throw into this project, because I don't know exactly what those bids will be. But I'll let you know as soon as I hear from them. And I don't know if you'll need to have any sort of additional meeting, but I just want to let you know that we are going to need to make a final decision, I think, by the end of the month or the very start of October, as to whether we can move forward with the project.
Right.
So I will, as soon as I get any information, I will pass it directly on to you. And I think we may need to make some decisions in a very short span of time. So I don't know if you'll need to extend this meeting or have some sort of ability to do some sort of an approval.
I don't know. We could if we knew that there was actually going to be a need for the meeting this month, we could just not adjourn. We could just sorry, Lori's the expert on this. What do
So
we do
you can continue the meeting until a specified date, and perhaps Tim might have a better idea of, would it be safe to say that, the last Thursday in September is a probable time you might have information by, or that sort of thing.
We could continue it to, I mean, you're going to have a bid opening? Is that my understanding, or they'll dribble in or something?
There is a bid opening, but somebody may submit them early. I don't know, and I have no idea whether we'll actually get any. But the fact that we had 4 contractors even there was a huge step in the right direction, as far as there might be some folks who are willing to endeavor to do the project.
So let's see, today's the 11th. 25th. Yeah, as Lori says, we have to set a date and a time for the continuation. And can we
So-
then?
But the other thing is, Ray, if you want to adjourn the meeting tonight, because Tim isn't sure when
Okay.
he's going to receive this information, you can just have a special meeting
Special meeting.
Yeah,
in
I think,
48 minutes,
I think that-
48 hours.
I
Oh,
think
that might be the better
sounds
way to go.
like what we have to do.
Yeah.
Is there a
If you only
deadline?
need 48, the deadline is the end of the month where we have to receive them. And I think we have to turn it around, like, the whole challenge here, and I'm sorry for those of you who already have a full understanding, is because of the situation with our former engineer, we were sort of in limbo for a long time. We were finally able to move forward. Centerline has been able to step in and pull together a bid package, and now we're waiting for that. But the timeline was extended. It's been extended a number of times for this. So it's extended, I think, to literally October 1st is when everything has to be decided. So this is definitely going to be before the end of the month. I just don't know exactly when you might need to do this. So I think 48 hours will give us enough time. And I will consult with Centerline to make sure we know exactly when that will be.
Okay. So I think we'll leave it that when you know a date, a definite date, we'll set up, we'll figure out, we'll set up a meeting to.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Once, we have to be certain you have information you need. And then we can sit down and all talk about it or see what numbers are and so forth.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yep.
On a much smaller note related to facilities, some of the kitchen appliances are finally hitting the end of their life after now, 12 years or so. And so we may have to, in the near future, we may have to look at getting a new proofer, which is sort of a larger heating cabinet. And then the milk cooler is definitely on its last legs. We've fixed both of these things a number of times, but we're at the end of their lives. So just to keep you abreast of that.
All right. And one of the things we helped pay for was you replaced the dishwasher or you repaired the dishwasher, or
We ended up having to replace it last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So we paid for the installation. That was one of the things we paid electrical bills related to that installation.
And we were able to access some other funds. We bought an additional refrigerator too, to help with the fresh fruit and vegetable program. So that's something that we did.
Okay. Great. All right. So we'll leave it at you'll give us an indication when this is going to happen, and I'll set up a meeting for the whole of the Prudential Committee to function as the Facilities Committee and listen to what the status of things is at that point in time.
So as soon as I get anything, I will forward it on to all of you, so you have
Okay.
the most up-to-date information.
All right. Great.
Thanks,
Are
Tim.
there any questions or any comments? There's another on this report. I mean, so if you have something to say or ask a question about, fire away, please. No one? Okay.
I would just say, as and Lori can attest, I think we've had a great opening of school. The kids are so excited to be there. We had a wonderful first day, the first day of pre-K. Oh my gosh, everybody was so excited to be there. Families, smiles all around. Some tears on the first days of letting their darlings go. But
Yeah.
I think overall, school opening has just been wonderful this year, and we're excited for the year ahead. The kids have been wonderful, and and the staff has just done a stellar job, and I want to commend them for that. So I just wanted to put a little kudos out for everybody at the village school. So thank you to all of those folks.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else? But that's, I was there, I'll say that. I participated in the parade and had my hamburger with, and talked to as many people as I could find to talk to. And there were a lot of people around, but there was a lot of activity. So I agree. It seemed that everybody was pretty happy. So that looked great to me. So all right. So you know, I think I could just call this meeting adjourned, really. But we'll do the formalities. Someone will give us a motion.
A motion.
Okay, Matt's seconding with his thumb. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And did we lose Lenny in